Hey, everybody. It is Wednesday, November 26th, the day before Thanksgiving here in the U.S. You're listening to the Mo News podcast. I'm Mosheh.
And I'm Jill Wagner. This is the place where we bring you just the facts.
And we read all the news and read between the lines so you don't have to, as many of you are making your way across the country, potentially, beginning cooking or continuing cooking, depending on how many people you're hosting. So we're wishing you an easy preparation, easy travel here. Jill, I always like to Google, like, what day is it today, right? It's National Cake Day. It's also International Cake Day. Sometimes these days don't coincide. But at the same time, it is Anti-Obesity Day.
Get it together, PR people.
Get it together. How can November 26th be all of the above? But there's healthy cake. Alex just made a healthy cake in our house, which was delicious and healthier than apparently the average cake. She did it for Olivia, who just went through some vaccines. So Olivia, as reward, got a homemade cake. Who I think Alex posted the recipe or the details of that over on our Instagram page.
And Mosheh, it's also time for our favorite quirky presidential traditions. Of course, we're talking about the turkey pardon, which we mentioned yesterday. President Trump giving ceremonial pardons to turkeys named Waddle and Gobble. Gobble, by the way, that was the name of the turkey when we were joking about the presidential pardon yesterday. That was the name that we used, Gobble. It's a little bit on the nose. And he also said that he is re-pardoning last year's birds, Peach and Blossom, because President Biden pardoned them using an auto pen, and they are therefore invalid.
Joe, this is a long tradition, and depending on the various storylines, you can give credit to Abraham Lincoln for the first pardon of a turkey. Apparently, Abraham Lincoln's son Tad begged him to spare one for Christmas dinner. So it wasn't a Thanksgiving pardon, but a Christmas pardon. But it wasn't a tradition. It was a one-off. Then fast forward to Harry Truman. Some people believe that he started the tradition, but it actually turns out he got turkeys as a gift and actually ate them. He didn't pardon them. So you can't give Truman credit on this one. Reagan jokingly pardoned a turkey during a press conference, but it was not a recurring event. For that, you have to go to George H.W. Bush in 1989. He begins the tradition of the presidential pardon for a turkey. So a little history there. And it's grown over time. They bring the turkeys from various farms across the country that win contests. The turkeys get to stay in a luxury hotel in D.C., the White House press secretary joking that they got into the minibar. They're waiting for the bill. I don't know if I'm going to blame the turkeys for that one, but for the people taking care of the turkeys. Trump joking yesterday that he'd like to lose a few pounds, but it probably won't happen before Thanksgiving. If you're looking for more Thanksgiving trivia, stay tuned to the end of the podcast. We're not doing On This Day in History today. We're doing Thanksgiving trivia. Jill wanted to change it up for y'all.
Because, Mosh, we want to give people some non-political things to talk about over Thanksgiving dinner, okay? So Thanksgiving
fun
trivia.
Facts. You're going to be the fun.
Exactly.
By the end of the podcast, you will be the fun fact person at your Thanksgiving.
Mosh, let's get to the headlines. After 3.5 years of war, it is looking like there is finally movement on an end to Russia's war in Ukraine. Or is there?
If it's not the end, Jill, it's the beginning of the end.
To politics, the first rule of Fight Club: don't talk about Fight Club, except when it involves politicians in Washington, D.C. In that case, talk about it all of the time, preferably to reporters.
The first rule of Washington is leak everything anonymously to reporters.
So we'll tell you about the Democrats' Fight Club for the future of the party.
And as we talk about skirmishes within parties, there's some issues on the Republican side right now.
Thanksgiving travel numbers. Could this record travel weekend have been even crazier if not for the government shutdown? After new embarrassing headlines about FBI Director Kash Patel, the latest on whether President Trump wants him out. A horrible story out of Chicago. A woman lit on fire on a train, and the suspect had been arrested more than 70 times.
Leading to many questions in Chicago when it comes to law enforcement and courts.
In lighter news, when it comes to dating, is coffee the new cocktail? And move aside Tokyo, the world has a new largest city.
Can you predict it? We'll tell you on today's podcast.
And as we mentioned above, in lieu of On This Day in History, we'll be doing some Thanksgiving trivia at the end of the podcast. Okay, starting with the latest with the war in Ukraine, where we could be nearing the beginning of the end of this 3.5-year war. Maybe.
Jill, it appears we're getting closer, but there's still a lot that has to be decided here.
So big news out Tuesday morning. Ukraine has agreed to that U.S. brokered peace deal with Russia with only minor details remaining. That's according to a U.S. official. Russia still would need to approve the deal. And it does look quite different from Trump's original 28-point peace proposal, which was accused of being a Russian wish list. So much so that it is now reportedly a 19-point peace plan. The revised plan reportedly removes several of the more controversial provisions. Ukraine reportedly not agreeing to limit the size of its military to 600,000 troops or agreeing to never join NATO. And perhaps the biggest sticking point, that Ukraine surrender some territory in the Donbas region that Russia has not been able to seize on the battlefield. Instead, the issue of territorial claims would be worked out between Zelensky and Trump at a later date. Now, as for when that meeting could potentially take place, Zelensky had said, hey, maybe they could meet this weekend. Trump, though, says not so fast.
Yeah, Trump actually left Washington for Thanksgiving down at Mar-a-Lago last night and plans to stay there through Sunday. So conceivably, I guess Zelensky could visit him in Florida, or they could do something virtually, do some sort of Zoom. A Ukrainian official saying they hope that the visit by Zelensky can take place as soon as possible. Zelensky very much wants to get in line with Trump again, because when he thought they were on the same page, then suddenly you saw Trump work out this deal, or the Americans work out this deal with the Russians, with definitely a number of provisions the Russians really like there. And then Zelensky had to push back on those things. So he sort of needs a meeting here to reinforce certain lines that he is not willing to cross when it comes to a deal. Trump said on Tuesday that he would meet with Zelensky once the deal is final, all caps, or in its final stages. So it appears he wants some more concessions, some more agreement here before he's willing to meet one-on-one with Zelensky. Now, that comes as Special Envoy Steve Witkoff, very close to President Trump, is meeting with Russian President Vladimir Putin, who holds a lot of power here when it comes to a deal. Because remember, he's sitting on 20% of Ukraine. He is on the offensive right now. And he believes that the longer negotiations take place, the more inches and feet and then miles of territory he can take over inside Ukraine. Now, there's another U.S. negotiator in the mix here. His name is Dan Driscoll. He's the U.S. Army Secretary. He's been meeting with Russian officials down in Abu Dhabi. So there's a lot of talks here happening at various levels. Driscoll, you might have not heard of him before he goes back with J.D. Vance. J.D. Vance, once he became the vice presidential nominee, called Driscoll. Driscoll joined the campaign, and then Driscoll's done a number of different roles in the administration, including Army Secretary. For a while, he was running ATF. And then Trump said, how about you try to negotiate with the Russians right now? So he's involved in that right now. He's been actually mentioned as a future Secretary of Defense if Hegseth gets the boot at some point, that does not look imminent at this juncture. Now, one of the key questions we're all asking right now, Jill, is who is going to be able to apply the pressure on Vladimir Putin to get him to come to the table and actually agree to a deal here? Remember, we think we have a deal, we don't have a deal. They have a meeting in Alaska, they don't have a deal. Then Trump's really upset at the Russians. So he says, I'm going to give more weapons to the Ukrainians. Then he gets more to the Russian side. Then he's more on the Ukrainian side. And he's been playing back and forth here. But the thing is, while there's Europe playing good cop with Zelensky, and while Trump plays bad cop at times with Zelensky, right now there is, Trump by himself playing both good cop and bad cop with Vladimir Putin. And he needs some support here, especially among the countries that have pressure, economic pressure they can apply on Vladimir Putin and the Russians. That includes China, that includes India. What will happen there? That'll be one of the questions. We mentioned yesterday the phone call that took place this week between Xi Jinping, the leader of China, and Trump. One of the topics that came up, Russia and Ukraine. So will that be a part of the process here, given the influence and the power that China has over Russia? That's one of the key questions here. But as much as you see all the back and forth with Zelensky, the question at the end of the day is Putin willing to come to a deal here? And will he allow some of the assurances Zelensky's looking for? Because Zelensky's big concern is, well, if I concede this territory, when will Putin invade again? And will I have protections? And he's looking for certain assurances there, like that NATO assurance. That's probably not going to happen at the end of the day. But he's looking for something that will protect Ukraine from the next Russian invasion.
Now to politics, Mosh. There is a new Fight Club in Washington, and you know what they say. The first rule of Fight Club, you don't talk about Fight Club.
That's what Brad Pitt said. He also said, Jill, the second rule of Fight Club is that you don't talk about Fight Club.
Well, this is Washington, D.C., and therefore you definitely talk about Fight Club, preferably to reporters.
Yes, the first rule of D.C. and the second rule of D.C. is leak it to the press.
So beginning with the Democrats, there is a group of liberal senators quietly, but not so quietly, pushing back against Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer. According to the New York Times, they call themselves the Fight Club, and they are frustrated with how Schumer is handling the upcoming midterm elections and also President Trump. So this group includes Senators Chris Van Hollen, Tina Smith, Chris Murphy, Bernie Sanders, Elizabeth Warren, and others. They have been meeting, coordinating endorsements, and challenging Schumer's strategy for 2026. Their big complaint is that Democratic leadership is favoring establishment-aligned candidates in key primaries in Minnesota, Michigan, and Maine.
Jill, the senators you mentioned there, for those who aren't familiar, these senators, well, the clue there was Bernie Sanders and Liz Warren, are on the much more progressive, liberal end of the pendulum on the Democratic side.
The tensions reportedly spilling into a private meeting with Schumer and New York Senator Kirsten Gillibrand, who denied that the campaign arm is backing preferred candidates. That only made the senators angrier. And this isn't the only intra-party rift for Democrats. Earlier this year, Schumer faced some backlash for refusing to endorse Zohran Mamdani in the New York City mayoral primary, a race that Mamdani ultimately won. Schumer also taking some heat for the way that he handled the government shutdown and not being able to keep the Democrats unified for longer. So you're now seeing this fight for the soul of the Democratic Party. Will it be the party of Mamdani and AOC? Or will it be the party of Chuck Schumer and Kirsten Gillibrand?
And don't forget Fight Club, Jill. Fight Club. They're in line with AOC there, and I mean, even some liberal Democrats are like, I'm not ready to be Mamdani with a Democratic Socialist label. But it's very interesting to see what is unfolding here. And you saw a bit of it play out in the aftermath of Biden's loss. Democrats saying, we put our cards with Hillary Clinton. We put our cards with Joe Biden. We put our cards with Kamala Harris. And establishment centrism has not won us elections 2 out of the last 3 times. In fact, Trump won, the popular vote in addition to the electoral vote. And he expanded his numbers when it came to young voters, when it came to urban voters, when it came to minority voters. And so their solution is, go hard left, go to your core. There's been a big talk on the Democratic side. There's been some books out in the last year by Ezra Klein, by Derek Thompson, the abundance theory that Democrats need to double down on building things again, cutting regulations, do big things, make big promises. That's one of the lessons they're learning from Trump. And so you see Fight Club here, or that's what they're calling themselves, trying to fight it out, saying Schumer, this whole centrism, making deals, the base doesn't want that. We need to go hard left. And so it'll be interesting to see how this plays out, especially when it comes to Democratic messaging next year in the midterm elections. All House seats are up. A third of the Senate is up. And those Senate primaries where effectively the Schumers of the world are pushing their finger down on behalf of centrist candidates, well, the left says that that's not going to work out in the election. We need to embrace the people that are fighting the good fight. You did see a bit of that, Jill, yesterday or in recent days here. James Carville, the Ragin' Cajun. You might know James Carville as a famous former advisor to Bill Clinton. He's often on TV wearing purple, green, yellow, sitting hunchback in a chair out of Louisiana. James Carville is the famous political strategist who came up with the motto for Bill Clinton back in 92. It's the economy, stupid. And interestingly, 33 years later, he is effectively saying it again. He says it's time for Democrats to embrace a sweeping, aggressive, unvarnished, unapologetic, and altogether unmistakable platform of pure economic rage. That is our only way out of the abyss. So you see this argument playing out where he's like, Trump said it, he got elected because of it, but now he's building a ballroom and engage with some of the richest people. We can now take the mantle. We can take that from Trump, and we can be the populist party. Let's out-populist the populist. And the working, representative, a big thing that's going to come up, Joe, is AI in this election as AI takes more and more jobs. So we're going to see that play out. So that's the Democratic side. the internal fight for the heart of the Democratic Party and what is the future of the Democratic Party. Then you have the Republicans, where not everything is hunky-dory right now. There's infighting amongst Republicans. We've seen it in recent weeks with the Marjorie Taylor Greene resignation. There is some really interesting reporting coming out of Punchbowl News. If you're into like hardcore Washington coverage, highly recommend Punchbowl News. They cover Capitol Hill. They are in touch with almost every member of Congress there. And that's where they have reporting this week that there are going to be a whole bunch of Republicans that are set to resign in the aftermath of the Marjorie Taylor Greene resignation because they're just frustrated. These are Republicans who are like, we have the majority right now in the House. Speaker Johnson has basically made us acquiesce to the president, made us basically follow the president's orders, even though we are our own body of the government. We have checks on power. And there was a nearly 2-month period where Speaker Johnson was like, Trump doesn't want us in, so I'm not going to have us in. So a lot of House Republicans say, what's the point of being here if we're not going to be able to do anything? So you do see a fight happening amongst Republicans there that we're going to closely watch here in the coming weeks and months. And we've talked about the sort of heart of the future of MAGA fight playing out amongst Republicans. Who will out MAGA the MAGA? It is interesting, Jill, in the last couple of days, Erica Kirk, the widow of Charlie Kirk, told Megyn Kelly that Charlie, one of his last wishes was that his organization, Turning Point USA, would support J.D. Vance for president. And so J.D. Vance, certainly one of the people who is in sort of the driver's seat or close to the, I would say at least the passenger seat to be president next. And so that's going to play out against a Marco Rubio and then against like a Marjorie Taylor Greene. And there'll still be the internationalist wing of the Republican Party, the whole Nikki Haley, Jeb Bush, traditional Republican side of things. You're going to see some candidates from that side. So it's fascinating to watch sort of how these parties are, showing their dividing lines and how these fights are going to play out.
So Mosheh, I know we're going to do a full predictions podcast, but if you had to guess right now, do you think that Schumer, who's not up for re-election until 2028, do you think that he runs again? Or do you think that he perhaps says it's time to retire?
Do any of these people say it's time to retire who've been there for? No, I think that Schumer is one of those people who will be there, sort of like Dianne Feinstein and Mitch McConnell and others. Like,
you're going to have to drag him out.
And then you're going to drag his dead body out of the Capitol, literally.
I don't think he would go willingly, but there seems to be a lot of discontent, which is why I ask.
There is a lot of discontent. I think a lot of it will be predicated on what happens next year. If the Democrats are able to pull off a straight and somehow pull off a Senate majority, which is, they're sort of underdogs for that, given what seats are up next year on the U.S. Senate side. If he can somehow become Senate majority leader and the Democrats have the majority again, he's got some momentum behind his back. But should the more realistic scenario play out where Democrats might gain a couple seats but don't get a majority and he's still in the minority, well, it's looking like, based on a recent profile, that AOC is leaning towards running against Schumer in a primary in New York and not running for president. She would be sort of his biggest threat, or one of his biggest threats in New York.
All right, time for the speed read, starting with the latest at the nation's airports. First, let's look at some of the numbers. AAA expecting 82 million people will travel to their holiday destination. Airlines projecting 31 million passengers through December 1st. Sunday and Monday will be the peak return days. The FAA says it expects this Thanksgiving holiday travel period will be the busiest in 15 years. The most passengers were expected to travel by air yesterday, actually, but could things have been even busier at the airports? According to Reuters, a record number of Americans had been expected to fly during Thanksgiving, but that 43-day government shutdown dampened demand for one of the year's busiest travel seasons. Many travelers rethought their plans as cancellations and delays mounted while the shutdown wore on. Bookings slowed after the shutdown hit the 1-month mark. The steepest drop came in the final week of the shutdown when the FAA ordered flight cuts at 40 major airports. As of November 24th, flight bookings for the 5-day holiday period were down about 4.5% from a year ago. That is according to data from the aviation analytics firm Cirium. Bookings were up just about 2% on October 31st, but then they steadily declined.
So thank you, Congress, for shutting down the government. So those of us who are flying this week have a slightly easier time, I guess. Some airlines do anticipate still record travel here as consumers regain their confidence post-shutdown and are booking flights at the last minute. American Airlines says it's going to operate 81,000 flights in the coming days. During the same period last year, they operated 77,000 flights, so 4,000 more flights. United says it expects more than 6.5 million customers over a 2-week period. That is the most passengers the airline has ever flown over a Thanksgiving holiday. The airlines have also added nearly 10% more seats year on year internationally.
Amtrak said it expects record train travelers this year. 1.2 million Americans booked trips with the railroad last year. Bus and train marketplace Wanderoo has seen demand rise 17% year over year, led by bus bookings. And the effects of the shutdown could drag into Christmas. During the shutdown, bookings were trending slightly lower year over year.
By the way, the good news if you're driving, gas prices have fallen to the lowest level since the pandemic. In nearly 30 states, gas is now averaging below $3 a gallon, except for you, California. You guys always have some of the most expensive gas in the country because of all the various state taxes and fees there. So I always report on gas prices, and everyone from California is like, not here. I know. We all know.
From the Associated Press, President Trump says he has no plans to remove Kash Patel as the FBI director in the coming months, despite a report from MS Now that he was considering it. MS Now, that is the new name for MSNBC, reported based on a few anonymous sources that Trump and his top aides have grown increasingly frustrated by the unflattering headlines that Kash Patel has recently generated. He's come under scrutiny for using bureau resources to give his girlfriend a security detail and for his squabbles with some Trump loyalists. A new New York Times report sourced to a whistleblower said Patel had used a government jet for what critics dubbed a date night to see his girlfriend perform in State College, Pennsylvania. And he also used his elite SWAT team agents for a security detail for his girlfriend. Trump and White House aides have confided to allies that the president is eyeing the removal of Patel and is considering top FBI official Andrew Bailey as the Bureau's new director.
Yeah, that was the MS Now report, which is still going to take some getting used to, Jill. It's sort of like we're still getting used to calling it X and not Twitter. MS Now is the new name for MSNBC, which here's a clue for all of you when you're reading a report and you're like, I wonder if this is true or not. MS Now, would stand to reason, is a liberal network. When they're reporting something exclusive from within the White House, within the Trump ranks, I always take that with an extra grain of salt. In the same way, if Fox News had some report amongst Democrats, I'm like, do they actually have that? Because if Fox News had a report from inside the Trump administration that was critical or saying something like this, I'm like, well, there's something more there because of the way that they source. And this is not to take anything away from people who work at MS Now, covering the White House. But suddenly, if you see someone liberal leaning with a great exclusive within conservatives, you sort of you add some grains of salt to that. In the same way, you see a conservative outlet being like, Democrats are, saying this. You're like, do I believe that given, you're a Newsmax or Daily Wire or, whatever conservative source? That's just something to keep in mind here. Now, at the same time, we were joking, Jill, before the podcast that if this was actually a true report, and then you had Trump denying it, the MS Now report, even if he was considering it, the fact that it got public now effectively gives Kash Patel a new lease on life for a few more months, because there is nothing Trump hates more than making the media or letting the media show that it was right about something. So even if he was considering this, he's like, oh, it's out there now? I can't do it for a while because then MS Now thinks they're going to be right.
Which is where you've got to wonder, did Kash Patel leak the story?
3D chess from the FBI director.
Chess.
But some pretty remarkable details, Jill. We shared some on the Instagram page early Tuesday morning that Patel is dating a 27-year-old country singer. Her name is Alexis Wilkins. She lives in Nashville. Patel lives in D.C., but he has a place in Vegas. And this report goes into the fact that he's using the FBI SWAT team basically as personal security for his girlfriend, not a family member, a girlfriend, as she travels around the country. They had an anecdote that she was giving a performance in Atlanta and the SWAT team was with her, but the SWAT team left early because they said this place is secure and this is not something we're supposed to be doing. We're SWAT team. We're not personal security. And that she was angry and he was angry. Fascinating. And that's a report where you're like, there's enough sources in here and the way that this reads where it's actually someone at FBI who might be leaking this, right? Some members of the SWAT team potentially could have gotten this story to the New York Times. The concern with the FBI director, if true, which, by the way, the FBI is not denying this story, is using a SWAT team for his girlfriend, is that this is an inappropriate use of taxpayer funds. That in a world where there have been multiple complaints around some of the agency heads taking liberties with taxpayer benefits, Kristi Noem is one of them. And over at DHS, there have been concerns and complaints about how she's using private jets for various things. Kash Patel sort of taking things to a new level, and there's frustration within the White House. We've told you about this, and this has actually been confirmed. Pam Bondi has had her issues with Kash Patel. Kash Patel got through by the skin of his teeth from the U.S. Senate because there were major concerns about whether he was qualified to do the job. Remember his conduct around the aftermath of the assassination of Charlie Kirk. Also his infighting there with Pam Bondi about the Epstein files. It hasn't been smooth sailing for Kash Patel, which is why it stands to reason that if you're thinking, how many of these various agency heads make it through 2026, that Kash Patel probably would be one of the first people out, given some of the fights here. There was that individual you mentioned, Andrew Bailey, who was put there, and some thinking that he was put there because sort of to be ready if Patel is to go. But nonetheless, Trump saw this. Trump had Patel at the White House for the turkey pardoning. And he's like, Patel, stand over here. I support you. So literally standing by his man, literally standing next to him. That's what we see right now. But that's going to be the parlor game as we go through next year, is that the cabinet remarkably has stood strong here this first year. But there have been a lot of negative stories around Pete Hegseth at Defense, Kristi Noem at DHS, Kash Patel at FBI, RFK. And those are some of the names that people are speculating as to the first to go and not make it all the way through 2026.
From the Mo News Instagram, a 26-year-old Chicago woman is fighting for her life after she was doused in gasoline and set on fire aboard an L train. An attack authorities say was carried out by a career criminal who had 72 prior arrests. The victim has been identified as Bethany McGee. She was attacked on November 17th, so last Monday night. Security footage shows a man identified as 50-year-old Lawrence Reed approaching her. She was sitting on the train. She was looking at her phone. He doused her with liquid, igniting the bottle, and then using the flame to set her on fire. She somehow was able to get out of the train when it stopped. Reed was arrested the next day. He now faces federal terrorism charges that could bring a life sentence. But Mosh, besides for just the horrific nature of this crime, what is getting a lot of attention here is that Reed has been arrested 72 times since he is 18 years old, but he's only served about 2.5 years in prison. So you've got a lot of people, especially government officials, wondering how it is that he was not behind bars.
Yeah, Jill, the numbers here are remarkable. Reed has 22 prior arrests in just the last 9 years, 53 criminal cases in Chicago dating back to 1993 over the last 30 years. 9 of those cases were felonies for which he pleaded guilty to. And in all that time, between the 72 arrests, the 53 cases, the 22 arrests just in the last 10 years, and the 9 felonies he pled guilty to, he served time twice in prison for a collective amount of time of 2.5 years. This is drawing a lot of comparisons to the attack back in August in Charlotte. It's another story we covered here, the killing of a Ukrainian refugee, a young woman who was riding the light rail train in Charlotte. Her attacker also had more than a dozen arrests, a long record, criminal record, mental health issues. And so North Carolina has been pushing a law called Irina's Law. Her name was Irina Zarutska, the victim in that crime. And the goal there in North Carolina is tightening security around high-risk offenders during bail decisions. The same thing in Chicago. The judge there is under scrutiny for allowing this guy house arrest and then not monitoring him as he left house arrest. And this guy took glee. He's got major issues, Jill. In his arrest, basically admitted to it. In Friday's hearing, he repeatedly shouted, "I plead guilty, I plead guilty, I plead guilty." And so the judge has ordered him a psychological evaluation. But this is now, leading to a national conversation. Trump says this reinforces his argument. He's got to deploy the National Guard because he does not believe local authorities and state authorities in Illinois and Chicago are dealing effectively with the situation.
to the economy impacting the way that Americans date. From CNBC, faced with rising costs, American singles are putting money at the forefront of their dating decisions. 50% of Gen Z say the economy makes them hesitant to commit to a serious relationship. That is according to a recent study by datingnews.com and the Kinsey Institute at Indiana University. Dating can be expensive. The average American spends as much as $168 per date. That includes grooming and gas money. Those who are ready to date but don't want to break the bank are getting creative. Just over a third, 35% of Americans are choosing to get coffee or drinks on a date as opposed to getting a full meal. And 35% are also opting for more affordable restaurants.
Jill, we've been reporting on how everything's getting more expensive, including coffee, by the way. The median price of a cup of coffee is up. It is now $3.50, but that's if you get like the basic coffee, right? But like then they got all the fancy coffees and the price of coffee beans is up, but still not as expensive as, getting a martini or other alcoholic wine and liquor. Now, we've seen this trend line for a while, and we were actually talking on our team meeting about, whether we went on dates, at various points. We have some people who are still single. We have some people who are formerly single. How many of us went on drinks dates versus coffee dates? Sometimes you get to know someone better. There's less pressure on a coffee date. But it's interesting that the economy is now playing into the coffee date here. And so people are looking at ways of saving money as things have gotten more expensive over the last couple of years, especially. And so they made some suggestions in this story as to other ways you could save money and have a slightly cheaper date. Going to bars with happy hours, using coupons for discounts on a date. How do you feel about that, Jill?
Bad move.
Like, hey, it was really fun with the drinks. Wait, do you guys take my coupon for the drinks?
I have a Groupon.
I have a Groupon for drinks here. You can't get that mixed drink. It's only for the rail liquor or wine. Doing free activities like going on a hike or a walk. I know that's big in like Southern California and those of you in the Mountain West, etc.
Right. If you're thinking about using a coupon for a drink, just do a walk instead. Just totally forget.
Don't do that on the first date.
Drinks.
Like you have to say I love you to the other person before you're like, we're going to use a coupon on the date. The first couple of days, that ain't gonna roll well. They have all the suggestions here, but these are difficult on a first date, Jill. Cooking a meal at home. Many women might say, no, I'm not going to do that on the first date. Staying in and watching a movie. It's like very college. Like, come over and watch a movie.
It's too much for
a lot of these work over time, but not for our first date. Sorry to say,
what
folks.
are you people doing? No wonder everyone's still single.
Those are the suggestions from Dating News. Someone who spoke to datingnews.com, which I just went to datingnews.com. I didn't know about datingnews.com.
I feel like we've mentioned them before and you're skeptical every time.
No, I just went to the website. They have a lot of articles on this website about dating. The league expands to India, Tinder, downloads cut in half in Spain. It's actually a pretty interesting website based on the headlines there. You're getting a lot of international stories related to dating. If you're into dating news, datingnews.com. We just discovered it. Thank you, Jill.
And from NBC News, the world has a new
I've heard of them. that NBC News. Now I've heard of those guys.
They've been around a little bit longer.
They've been around for a bit, yeah.
So the world has a new most populous city. Indonesia's capital, Jakarta, tops a ranking that is increasingly dominated by Asia. With an estimated population of nearly 42 million residents, Jakarta soared from 33rd place in the previous rankings in 2018. When Tokyo was at the top. Jakarta, not without some problems. The city is prone to earthquakes and flooding. It is overcrowded, polluted, and rapidly sinking, to name a few.
No, in fact, Indonesia's moving its capital away from Jakarta. So this is going to be a short-lived thing because in Indonesia, they're actually moving the capital over the next 20 years to another city due to the fact that Jakarta is sinking. So enjoy the label while you have it, Jakarta. Maybe this is one of the reasons you're sinking is all these people who now live there. Well, I mean, I joke. It's a larger issue related to oceans rising and the nature of Jakarta. But again, this is short-lived as they move their capital city. By the way, not the only capital city moving. There are other countries that due to climate change, due to other factors, are moving their capital cities.
I'm picturing Mosheh in Jakarta as you say, it's sinking because there's so many people. Like somebody being like, all right, on the count of 3, we're all going to jump. 1, 2, 3.
We're all going to jump.
And we'll see what happens.
I was imagining like a plane where it's like, too many of you are living on this side of the city. We need you to live on this side of the city. Actually, a stunning stat, Jill. Nearly 90% of humanity lives in the northern hemisphere versus the southern hemisphere, the way that the hemispheres work. I didn't realize that, but not surprising because you got like China and India and the US. And you look at, most of the world's populous countries, they're all in the northern hemisphere.
Well, speaking of which, Jakarta is followed by Dhaka, which is the capital of Bangladesh, with 36 million people. According to this report, Dhaka is expected to become the world's largest city by mid-century, so in about 25 years. Tokyo's population, meanwhile, set to drop by about 2.7 million people, reflecting Japan's aging and population crisis. The new ranking speaks to the rapid change taking place across the world and the rise of densely populated mega cities.
Yeah, by the way, speaking of which, Dhaka, Bangladesh, they're also going to have to potentially move that because there's major issues related to overcrowding in Dhaka. Japan's an interesting story. The population is going down in Japan. They're not having enough kids. And so over time here, the population of Japan's going down. Korea's going down. Many countries in Europe going down. China's going down. By the back half of the 21st century, Nigeria is set, based on current population trends, to be the most populous country on Earth. Those are some fun facts for you to discuss at the Thanksgiving table. Also, interesting fact, 9 out of 10 of the most populated cities on Earth located in Asia. The only exception in the top 10 is Cairo. Speaking of cities that are moving, they're building new Cairo right now in Egypt. They have more than double the amount of people in Cairo as they have in New York. Jill, having been to Cairo in the last couple of years, it is a very, very, it makes like New York seem rural in various areas and like with a lot of space. So, Jill, this is now where we typically do On This Day in History, but you have something up your sleeve for us today.
Thanksgiving Day trivia, Mosh. I put some questions together. We know you're basically a human encyclopedia, but how much do you know about Thanksgiving?
Try me, Jill.
And everyone at home, we want you to play along. So let's start with the origins of Thanksgiving. How many passengers were on the Mayflower?
I feel like, there's all these stories, right, of the Pilgrims not surviving, but that's once they get to the U.S. So, like, there were only like a couple dozen left. I don't know. Let's go 150.
102.
Okay. Oh, Price is Right rules. I was over. I got that one. I hope one of you out there got it.
This is all top of mind for me because my daughter is learning about Thanksgiving right now. So with that, an easy one for you. Where did the Pilgrims settle?
Jill. Plymouth Rock. Plymouth, Massachusetts.
And the first official act of legislation by the Pilgrims?
There was a compact of some sort.
The Mayflower Compact.
Naturally. Okay.
What Native American tribe celebrated the first Thanksgiving with the Pilgrims?
I did not prepare for this. I do not remember the name of the tribe. What was their name?
The Wampanoag, Mosh. All right, now to current Thanksgiving celebrations.
Much better, much better.
I just wanted to do the refresher on the origins because, again, my daughter is learning about it, and it was a refresher for me. So I thought, this is interesting
I think it's really
stuff.
good. I will never forget the Wampanoag now.
All right, which football teams always play on Thanksgiving Day?
Now that I can answer. The Dallas Cowboys and the Detroit Lions.
This one is funny. I didn't know
Fox
this one.
has a game and CBS has a game typically. I'm checking it right now. There are actually 3 games this year. There will be the aforementioned Lions playing at 10 a.m. Eastern against the Green Bay Packers. Then there's a 1:30 game, the aforementioned Cowboys playing against Kansas City. And then a 3rd game this year, Cincinnati and Baltimore.
All right, what did the balloons in the Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade replace?
I feel like the balloons were always there, Jill.
Apparently, there was a time when they had live zoo animals.
Oh, you know what's so interesting about that? There used to be like a famous, when the circus came to New York, they used to march elephants across the Brooklyn Bridge.
And the Midtown Tunnel.
They
through the Midtown
they had
Tunnel.
the elephants go through the Midtown Tunnel too?
Yes.
So there you go. So it was a tradition, I guess, marching animals through through New York City.
By the way, there's 5 new balloons this year. Buzz Lightyear, Derpy Tiger from K-pop Demon Hunters, Mario, Pac-Man, and Shrek's Onion Carriage. And also there's a Labubu float. It's called Friendsgiving in Pop City. So keep an eye out for that. Mosh, are pumpkins technically a fruit or a vegetable?
I feel like it's one of those trick questions. What
It's
fruit?
not.
Well, it's just because
Well, I
you
guess you
feel
think
like it
it's-
feels veggie. And anyway, fruit.
Right, because it has seeds, I think.
Yeah, there you go.
All right, how many guests do those hosting Thanksgiving dinner usually have on average?
Oh. How many guests? 5 or 6.
11.
What? That's the average number? 11? Remarkable.
All right, I don't know the source for this next question, but this blew my mind. How many Americans prefer Thanksgiving leftovers to Thanksgiving dinner?
Oh. Well, I will say this. Leftovers are pretty damn good. So I'm going to go with the majority. 55, 60% leftovers.
You're on the right track. 80%, apparently,
Huh?
which feels
No
high.
way. 80% prefer the leftovers to the meal itself. That's guys.
Black Friday is the biggest day of the year for what trade profession?
Oh, I did this story at CBS for a number of years. Plumbers.
You're correct. What goes
We
in
won't
must
go
go
into further
out.
detail as to why Black Friday after Thanksgiving meals is the biggest day for plumbers.
Turkey for me, turkey for you. What year did Adam Sandler release the Thanksgiving song?
Okay. It was early 90s, was sort of like peak SNL cast, like Phil Hartman, Chris Farley, Sandler. So it had to be like 91 or 92.
Mosh, you are correct. 1992.
This is the weird shit that I know that like so frustrates Alex, my wife, because like there's like basic things I need to remember, and she's like, "Why do you remember the year the Thanksgiving song came out?" I'm like, "I don't know, I do, but like, sorry about forgetting the thing that I was supposed to do this week in the kitchen."
Well, this is where you shine. And according to a YouGov survey, what 3 things do Americans report being most thankful for?
3 things they're most thankful for: family, your health, friends.
Family, health, and life.
Oh, like being alive. That is an important thing to be thankful for. I am thankful for that as well, too. And I'm thankful for you.
Yes, and on this Thanksgiving, we are so thankful to all of the listeners out there. Thank you guys for spending part of your day with us. We really do appreciate it. Mosh, thank you for creating Mo News and for making it really a pleasure to do this podcast and talk shop with you. And as always, I am extremely thankful this year for my friends and my family.
Joe, that was a lot of fun. I like trivia. We got to do that more often, like mix it up from On This Day in History. Thank you. Thanks to all of you out there. Of course, love my family. Thankful to my wife, to my daughter, to my parents, to everyone in my immediate and extended family and my friends, all my colleagues here at Mo News, and all of you out there, listeners, especially you premium members. Your support means the world and keeps this thing going and growing. And so that is why, well, naturally, our code this year is THANKS, our biggest sale of the year, our Black Friday sale, for those of you who would become new premium members, those of you who are returning, those of you who want to upgrade from monthly to annual, and those of you who are already on annual premium memberships, we're offering you the code THANKS, and put it into the Mo News dashboard on the website, and you will get a discount on your next renewal. 30% off. This is, again, biggest sale of the year, and Mo News Premium will give you access to news over the next 5 days. That's where we'll be doing the news on the premium feed, along with the Mo News web app, the Slack channel. We got an Ask Mo Anything podcast coming out this weekend, a whole bunch of fun things and big things in store in 2026.
All right, everybody, thank you for listening to the Mo News podcast. Have a wonderful Thanksgiving. We are so thankful for you. Remember, join Premium. It is also a wonderful gift that you could give this holiday season as you start shopping this weekend.
Yes, mo.news/premium. What to get the person who has everything, or the news junkie in your life, or the person that you want to become the news junkie, or the person that you want to have more reasonable views about things in the news. Mo News Premium works for all those people and all those things. So check it out. We'll see you over there. Otherwise, Jill, I'll see you back here on Monday.
Gobble, gobble.